India's Reserve Bank has come up with a new plan. Indian traders can now settle their business in rupees. Until now, that was not the case. Trade had to be done in convertible currencies, like the dollar, or the pound sterling, or the euro. But that's not the case anymore. Pretty soon, India's international trade can be conducted in Indian rupees. Let me explain how that works. Step 1, countries must express interest in the rupee trade. Step 2, both sides exchange bank accounts. For example, let's assume Russia wants to trade in Indian rupees. Then Russian banks will open accounts in Indian banks, and these are called Vostro accounts. Similarly, Indian banks will have to open accounts in Russia. So both sides will maintain reserves in local currency. Step 3, the trade begins. Again, let's use an example. Suppose India is exporting something to Russia, say cars. Now, Russia will pay for these cars in their currency, in the ruble. But that money is not directly paid to the exporter. Instead, that money, those rubles, are deposited in the Vostro account. Step 4, the banks calculate the payment in rupees. How do they do that? Based on the market conversion rates. For example, if the payment is, say, 100 rubles, then the bank releases 135 Indian rupees to the exporter. That is today's exchange rate. So effectively, here's what the system means. Indian exporters get paid in Indian rupees and Indian importers pay in Indian rupees. How will this system benefit India? In 3 ways. Number 1, it will arrest the rupee slide. The US dollar has hit 79.5 against the rupee. Experts say it could soon breach 80. So the RBI is deploying Economics 101, increasing the demand for rupee. Under this new system, foreign traders will require more rupees. And more demand equals more value. Benefit number 2, it conserves valuable foreign exchange. India's reserves stand at $588 billion. That should be enough to last us almost 10 months. But the problem is the trajectory. Foreign investors have pulled out $33 billion from the Indian markets. Plus, the trade deficit is increasing. It is 2.5 times last year's level. So the RBI is looking to get ahead of the curve, protect the reserves, and use the rupee instead. Benefit number 3, easier trade with struggling regimes. This includes the likes of Russia, Iran, even Sri Lanka. Most Russian banks have been kicked out of the international banking system, the SWIFT system. So the Indian rupee trade could be an alternative. India and Russia can trade without the US dollar. That's a lot of savings for both sides. Let me show you the numbers. In June, India bought 950,000 barrels of oil per day from Russia. That's almost 15% up compared to May. At the same time, the imports from West Asia dropped. The Iraq imports fell 10%. The Saudi Arabia imports dropped 13%. So India's oil trade is now configured towards Russia. How much money are we talking about? Almost $5 billion. That's how much India spent until May 2022, until May this year. Now, those payments were made in the US dollars. But with this new system, that changes. India and Russia can trade in local currency. Same applies to Sri Lanka. Until now, India's credit lines were in US dollars. But now loans can be issued in Indian rupees. And Sri Lanka can use this money to buy Indian commodities, whether it's food or fuel or medicines. Beyond that, could this move globalize the rupee? Perhaps challenge the dollar or the euro? The RBI statement does mention this. Listen closely. This is what the RBI, the Reserve Bank of India, has said. In order to support the increasing interest of global trading community in the rupee, it has been decided to put in place an additional arrangement for invoicing, payment, and settlement of exports and imports in rupees. But at this point, it seems highly unlikely. The dollar still dominates global trade, even in the Asia Pacific. The dollar makes up 74% of all transactions. Having said that, the RBI is thinking in the right direction. India cannot depend on the dollar alone. Wherever possible, local currencies must be used. They have put a system in place for that. The next step is making it lucrative.